causes some of these differences? Somebody give me one that you came up with. Tim.
Men tend to pursue more studies or pages.
Higher, are you talking about like engineering or something?
Yeah.
Okay. So, choices of profession. Okay. So, men, more engineering was one of the examples. All right, what else? Yeah, Valentine?
Men are more likely to have a full-time job.
Yeah, the full-time, part-time distinction. Men more likely full-time. Okay, what else?
Systemic sexism, i.e. women being discouraged from math classes, engineering.
Okay, you're talking about, yeah, possibilities of, let's see, education, more geared to, sexist ways. Okay. What else? Another one in there? Yeah.
Experience.
Huh?
Experience.
Experience, yeah. So that was a big one. So what was the, how can we add on to that experience? What tended to give men more experience, so to speak? I don't even know if it's the best word. It's kind of a little bit different. What drove that? Yeah, Valentine?
Because women are often willing like to take care of their children.
Okay, so culturally, if we still have women primarily the leader of childcare in the home, then the man tends to stay on the job more continuously, right? And so continuous employment was part of it with the experience of the job. So that was one of the important ones, continuous employment. Okay, so then lastly, and this is, I don't know if anybody has any other burning ones. I just kind of want to lay these out here so that we can start to say, well, how do we diagnose if it's 70%? What is sexism potentially of gender discrimination and what is not? So here's from your textbook. Less than high school, so men are the blue bar, women are the gold bar. So high school, some college, bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctor's degree, doctorate. So we kind of see this across the board where we get this 70% gap going on. So that's not to be denied, right? So how do we kind of scientifically go about and say, is it that women are being discriminated against, or is it these other factors? So how could you design, what I'm asking you to do is to take some of this into account and kind of devise a way that you could check to see if it ultimately is some gender discrimination or if it's some other factors. How would you get a sample size, a sample of men and women, so that we could test for whether gender discrimination is the driving reason or not? What would you need to do with a sample of people given these issues? I'm trying to be put my scientist hat on today a little bit, even though I don't know if economists make the best scientists. We do use the scientific method. I say the best scientists because we're dealing with human beings, not like atoms and fun stuff like the physicists get to do with sodium benzite or something, and they mix the two together. It's a lot more precise than what we have to do in economics. What do you think? Jesse?
Well, I guess you could try doing a study at various schools to see if they in any way encourage boys to do science and math classes over girls.
Okay, you're stuck on this one. I want to talk about the whole thing. Anybody else? Yeah.
Maybe you'd say 2 groups for the same job, and the women don't then have children?
Nope. What does your sample size need to look like? And then look at that sample size's pay. So I want to get 1,000 men and women, 500 men and 500 women. What would I need to do to kind of scientifically approach the problem to see, are these women being discriminated against or not? You know, for the most part, or is it a driving factor? What attributes would each of the 500 men and women need to have to try to tease out whether there's discrimination going on? The same job, yes. So we want to make some things the same. So let's grab 500 women engineers and 500 men engineers. Let's grab full-time women and full-time men. You see what we're doing here? We're going to equalize all these other factors as best as possible. It's not going to be perfect. And if we can get that more equalized and then take the average pay of women and the average pay of men, and what does it look like? And that's essentially a thumbnail sketch of what economists do to look at the marginal impacts of that. And so after controlling for those aspects, what did the gender gap close to on this study anyway, which is a little bit older study? What did it close to? Was it still 70%? 98, right? So most of that closed. Other studies find in different industries, women are paid more than men. So I know there was some doctors that sometimes in like a specialized field, maybe heart surgery or something, I can't remember exactly, but there are some industries where women on average end up getting paid more than men. And so in general, I think the United States has made some good moves over the last 40 years to close that gap. Should we further try to close the gap from this 70%?
Yes,
Why?
because having a wage gap isn't good.
Why? Is it not good? Is it good to take care of our kids or not? Or is it good to have women be the primary person, the caretaker, or not? Danny?
The wage gap is about the jobs they work. The jobs women usually end up working, such as education, are of vital importance to this country. The fact that they are getting paid less when they are creating the workers of tomorrow is insane. So if we were to increase the pay on these important jobs, the wage gap would close.
Okay, so how do we close that gap? How do we close it culturally? How do we have people value that more? How do we change our culture so that we value the educators more? It seems like a kind of a cultural problem to me. How do we get the men to stay more at the home? Or is that a good thing to pursue in the first place? That's the debate, I think. We see some of these gaps close as we do it. So Daniel brings up a good point. I mean, are our values as a society kind of messed up? That we put more value on sporting events and other things than we do, K through 12 educators. Interesting stuff, huh? This is the type of stuff that we're going to start to uncover between this chapter and the next of this is what it looks like, this is us. And sometimes us, the picture of us isn't always real pretty. So, all right, so we'll continue on from there. There's a little more to get into. So why do garbage picker-uppers, why do garbage workers make more than McDonald's workers? So I don't know for sure, but I've heard in the past, I think Some of the people that are coming around to your garbage cans here in Ottawa are making about $20 an hour, and McDonald's about 15. So let's just kind of start off that with an example. So garbage men, women is $20 an hour. McDonald's is $15 an hour. Did the garbage men do a lot more education?
Yes.
No, right? So, what's causing the difference? What's causing the difference?
Is it early here?
Is it what?
Is it early when they
The pickup, yeah, generally in the mornings, but I think they pretty much work into at least the early afternoon. I know my garbage gets picked up. It used to be like 7 or 8 a.m., like really early, but then I think they switched the schedule and it's more like 10 a.m. or something. Yeah, Madison?
Because no one wants anything to be dirty.
Yeah, the dirtiness, right? Anybody else? Yeah, Anthony? The what? The need, okay. So the need we got, so yes, we got the, is there a difference between that? Is that what's driving the difference that we have a need for garbage pickup? You're saying this one is more needed or something than this one? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Just want to kind of keep it in your language. So does that end up playing a role in it? So from last week's material, what was the demand for labor? The marginal revenue product curve was the demand for labor was equal to, what was the formula? You can look back in your notes if you need to. What was the formula?
You want us to yell at
Daniel. Marginal revenue times marginal product. Good. All right, so remember, this was the incremental change in revenue from another unit produced, and this was the change in the number of units from another person being hired, right? So we have the productivity and the revenue generated. So is Anthony's comment captured with the demand part? Is the need part reflected in the demand for garbage workers? So we kind of last week's stuff was focusing in on the demand, and this was the demand for labor. Maybe I'll put 2 graphs up here. So remember, this is garbage or hamburgers, which some people would say McDonald's hamburgers maybe is the same thing. So this is kind of handy. So, and this is the labor market. This is the garbage worker market, and this is McDonald's hamburgers. Let's see, that's the output. This is Mickey D's workers. I just kind of want to, I shouldn't be doing this quite like this, but I want to, I don't want to put 4 graphs on the board. So I just want to get your mind thinking that this is the labor market trying to hire. This is the resource market that we focused in on with last week's material. This is what we've been doing all term, right? This is beer, chicken wings, and pizza, the demand for garbage pickup, the demand for hamburgers. And so back to Anthony's point, is there something here that is the difference between garbage workers and McDonald's? Where is the need for the good being reflected? Where is the need for the good being reflected? So is it reflected in the output market, the demand for garbage pickup? If it's, let's say, I would guess this would be pretty true if you go to other countries, especially you'll see this. Do Americans demand cleaner, somebody said the word clean, I can't remember where it was. Madison, you did, I guess. So where is the demand for cleanliness higher? In higher income areas or lower income areas? Higher income, right? So we might have we can afford to do it, or if I'm really poor, I'm not worried about the trash as much. I know one of my buddies who, doesn't have as much income. He takes his garbage to work, right? So he doesn't have to pay for trash pickup. He's just a single guy. If you do trash pickup, it's once a week. So he just brings his garbage to work, and he just basically does his own trash removal that way. And so, but as you start to make more income, you're like, oh, it'd be nice if somebody didn't. It's kind of gross putting my, garbage in the back of my car or in the trunk and then having to haul it out, and maybe it's a little embarrassing to bring it to work and, be putting it in the dumpster or whatever. But the demand would be higher, right? And so the need part ends up getting reflected here. And so higher trash service would be higher demand, kind of trying to play with Anthony's thing here. And that ultimately determines the price of trash service, right? Of how much we're willing to pay, also based on the supply. So the interaction of supply and demand, my trash service in Ottawa is, I think it went up to $20 a month. Not too bad, $20 a month. So we're $20 a month for trash pickup, and if I wanted to have more pickups, then the trash prices would have to go up, right? Or if in general prices went up. But if prices go up and it's a good business, then we learned in our chapter with competition that supply would go up. More people would enter the garbage industry, right? More businesses, entrepreneurs would say, oh, there's a lot of money to be made in trash business. And so maybe $20 is the part where they break even and have a normal economic profit. Okay, that's a lot of saying that because I know this is kind of an important issue to think, well, would that make a difference? So that ends up establishing the price that we have for garbage. And then ultimately here, that gets reflected in the demand for the workers to do that job. But it's also determined by the supply. So back to my thing, is there a heavy skill difference between the two jobs?
Yes.
Who's the entry-level workers? Would you say this is low, no skill, or you need a bachelor's degree to do garbage service or McDonald's? Low, no skill, right? What you're going to experience is some on-the-job training, right? You'll have some on-the-job training, but probably from an education perspective, if you're a hard worker, that's what the garbage company's looking for. Guess what? McDonald's is looking for that too, that you show up on time and you do your job. And we'll kind of train some of the skills that you need to, make the product and run the trucks. So some of the guys for the garbage, running the truck probably have a Class C license, so there's a little bit there with driving the big truck around. But I'm talking about the guys hanging off the back. So there's the driver who would be a different position, different pay. I'm talking about the guys who are out there grabbing the trash and getting it in. So it's kind of stinky, it's kind of gross, right? Is that fair? You've looked at your trash cans that you open them up and they kind of stink, and imagine doing that for the whole city, right? So we have the supply and demand, and so if this was our picture here, we can think about the supply of McDonald's workers and the supply of garbage workers. And if those two supplies are different, and they continue to be different over a period of time, what is causing the difference between our low skill workers who basically are at the same even starting point in terms of hard working? What's really persistently keeping a wedge between the garbage pay and the McDonald's pay?
Really needs to do something about this, don't you? So the supply.
the willingness to do it with the stink, is that what I heard you say?
No, with the comparison to others.
In comparison to others. Okay, so you're not willing to go to the stink.
Yeah, waking up like earlier, you know,
Okay.
filling your time.
So yeah, that might be a little bit of it, right? If we have to get up early, although are some of those McDonald's workers punching in at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m.?
They do.
Yeah, if you get the breakfast shift, yeah, you might be punching in early too there. So I'm not sure the early part, but you're good at thinking about the job attributes is where I'm really trying to touch on. Simon?
Conditions.
The working conditions, yes, right? So the working conditions, the stink, possibly what the hours can play a role. So all of that stuff, if that keeps a permanent difference between the two, then we call that a compensating wage differential. So a compensating wage differential. So this is a difference in pay that persists over a long run due to work conditions. And other attributes of the job. So with the garbage people here, it's the stink factor, dealing with all of our garbage. So from our example, the stink factor and grossness factor. The stink factor keeps pay higher for garbage work. Okay, I hope this doesn't become too much of a stretch, but let's imagine there's innovation that takes the stink factor completely away. There's no grossness factor anymore with this in terms of people's perception of working at McDonald's. You got to work with the grease, and sometimes, how many of you worked at fast food where you kind of walk out after a shift and you kind of got this layer of grease on you, right? So I was a short order cook for a long time at a Greasy Spoon restaurant and then a steak and lobster place. And you know, your shoes get all curled up from the grease that's kind of gnarled it and like slowly eroding it over time, right? So there's a little bit of that factor anyway going on with restaurant work. But if some innovation happened to where the stink factor was eliminated, so example number 2, if stink factor was gone due to technology and innovation, what do you predict would happen to McDonald's and garbage pay? What do you think would happen? Let me go back here to the back of the room. Thank you, Tim and Jesse and Daniel. And Valentine, you've been up. Let's get somebody back here and feeling it. Maybe we'll rule out Simon. Let's get a new voice. Simon's chomping at the bit. He's about to raise his hand. Come on. What do you think would happen we eliminate the stink factor. We got low no-skill jobs, so people have the similar jobs, and they're kind of you know, similar in hours and other things. What do you think would happen? Okay, and so what would happen now to answer my question? What would happen to garbage pay? It would decrease. What would happen to McDonald's pay? It would actually increase if we think about the supply and demand, right? If we have people shifting from McDonald's to go chase over that, let's put two graphs side by side. This time we'll make them both the labor market here. So this is McDonald's labor. And I guess we put the wage over here. And this is the garbage deal. And so for your initial situation, put the garbage people at 20 and McDonald's at 15. You can kind of just eyeball things here. All right, so Anthony, what did you say is going to happen in the garbage market? Yeah, more people will be willing to work. And so if we were already at full employment, we got to think, well, where are these people coming from, right? And so as we start to have more workers come in, the supply curve shifts to the right, driving down the wage. And over here, remember, we're in the resource market again, so the supply curve is our households. These are the people. They're going to shift to the left because they're going over here, right? So they're quitting McDonald's. They're like, oh, McDonald's is only paying 15 bucks. With that new technology, garbage pickup's easy. I think it's even easier than McDonald's work, right? And so they're going to move over there when the stink factor's gone. And so there's a decrease in supply heading this way in the McDonald's market. And so we'll start to meet somewhere in the middle if they're perfectly equal. And I guess maybe I got lucky here. If you guys want to cheat, you can take one of your curves and do something like that. Maybe they meet at $18 or something. Depends on the supply and demand. So McDonald's workers go up in pay, and ultimately garbage workers' pay comes down. And we kind of get the old slogan of equal pay for equal work, right? Even though it's not equal work, it's not perfect. But if it was perfectly equal, then it might converge that way. But for low, no skill work, people kind of are willing to do what it takes. If the physical demands, work conditions, and other job attributes are similar, people seek the highest pay, right? So if we hold that stuff equal, where do you want to work? Well, I heard they're hiring for 20. Boom, I'll do it. So an interesting one here in Ottawa has been the Walmart Distribution Center and American Eagle. Does anybody work at American Eagle right now, or know anybody that works at American Eagle? Know some people? Anybody know Walmart Distribution Center? Or know of some people at Walmart DC? So Walmart DC has been, and I've been tracking the 12 years I've been here, it seems to be pretty similar, even in today's labor market, of about a $5 difference in pay. And it's like they're both kind of doing some manual labor of some sort. You know, in one case you're packing up boxes, maybe a little bit more. Walmart, you're hauling boxes into the trucks. And as near as I can tell, the main driver of the difference that I hear from students and other people is it's hot as hell at Walmart DC. Some of you are going home during the summer, but Kansas summer, come July and August, when it's 105 degrees here and higher humidity, it's hot. And Walmart DC does not have any air conditioning for that part of the job. And so I think currently they're at about $22.50 or something You can be a high school graduate, low, no skill labor, $2,250. That's over 40 grand a year. Unfortunately, that's more than some of you are going to make with your bachelor's degree. But it's not easy work. But it sounds like they have kind of a nice work culture there. I've never really heard much negativeness. I'm sure every job has some negativeness, but I think the Walmart culture, I visited their plant. I think there was a Chamber of Commerce deal or something there. So American Eagle, $5 difference, and as near as I can tell, it's these job attributes in large part maybe to the air conditioning, that it's a little more comfortable at work, because a lot of the other stuff is similar. All right, so let me write that down, and then I'll see if you guys got any last questions here. So the moral of the story, therefore, our prediction in economics, using the economic way of thinking, is that jobs of similar conditions and attributes should have very similar wage rates. Okay, questions or comments on that? So sometimes we call these temporary differences in the labor market. Like you can imagine if, I don't know, one of these industries had a temporary loss, or maybe there's a natural disaster or something like that, to where there was a need for more garbage pickup immediately, and then all of a sudden, we need to find haulers and maybe even drivers too. And so there's a temporary increase, but then if that level of garbage pickup remains, then we'd start to see this readjustment period, right? So we'd expect there to be temporary differences, but not permanent differences among jobs. So the key is only temporary differences would persist. Okay, so now, what are some other things that go with your pay? I think it was funny on our podcast earlier this week, Justin brought up how that was at the colloquium, I guess, wasn't it? Nada, you were there, and how we get paid in different ways anyway for our job. We get our check, but what else do employers generally have provided with the employee? What are some things, the other elements of pay besides cash in your hand? Yeah, Madison?
Would like employee discounts be?
Employee discount would be one, sure, yeah. So let's just put on here, let's see, other forms of pay than the wage. So Madison brought up a good one, so the old employee discount. Okay, so that could be a benefit. Tucker? Stocks, okay. So like some ownership of the company, is that what you're thinking, or?
Yeah,
Okay, those are kind of two different things. So I'm gonna list them both and then we'll talk about them. So it could be, let's say, stock ownership of the company itself. So some companies say, hey, we not only want you to be an employee of this company, but part of your compensation is going to be you're going to earn X amount of shares along with your pay so that you're an actual owner of this corporation or this company as well, right? So that's one form of it. The other one you mentioned is probably much more common, and that is some sort of 401k, so some sort of matching program for retirement. I'm getting kind of low here, so I'm going to start my writing on the other side. So those of you who are in my personal finance class, we're actually coming up on this section here pretty shortly, but we'll have some matching done by the employer. So I'm going to have matching program for retirement. So example, 401k, where employer puts in $1 for every $1 the employee puts in, up to 5% of yearly pay. So just to keep the numbers easy, if you were making $100,000, 5,000 your employer would be putting in. You put in 5,000, they put in 5,000. Is that a good rate of return on your money? Yeah. So all of a sudden retirement can grow a lot more. So this is very common in the United States with retirement, because Social Security is not going to be good enough to probably keep you at a level of enjoyment in your life. And it might just go broke. It's scheduled to go broke by 2038, I think is the last thing I heard. So the United States has kind of leaned more into private systems, and this is one thing that employers will compete on. They're like, hey, we'll give you dollar for dollar. I know that other company you're looking at only gives you 5%. We'll let you do it up to 10%, right? And so now all of a sudden it's a competitive thing that employees need to take into account, not just their overall wage, but also the retirement plan that they're proposing. Okay, good. Those are a couple good ones. So you could be buying the actual company itself, or getting some retirement investment going. Other things with employees. Let's go over here. Yeah. Noah. Nick! Damn it. All right. Sorry. Oops. Oh, good. Health benefits. Yes. So number 4. Healthcare benefits. Very good. So this could be for your, primary physician. Underneath this, we can also have dental. So we got regular doctor visits and stuff, dental visits, eye care. So all of these are possibilities. Again, kind of a fairly common, I don't know what the percentage is, but that they will give you an individual plan 100%. Not all companies, but a lot of companies would come in and say the employee gets 100% coverage or close to it, and then if they have a spouse or some children, then they'll get kind of discounted rates, but that's going to come out of your paycheck. But it can be underneath the plan, which can be very beneficial depending on your circumstances. Okay, good. Healthcare plan. That's a big one. Anybody else? Some other plan? Yeah, Nadia?
Fringe benefits?
Fringe benefits. Okay, so now all of this is kind of similar to fringe benefits, but I am going to add that. Did you have something in mind of what you meant by fringe benefit?
For example, they can pay for your house.
Okay, yeah. There could be other goodies, right? Other goodies that you get. So let's go ahead and just put other fringe benefits. By the way, all of this stuff is called fringe benefits, so they're on the fringe. Let me see how the textbook defined it. Benefits other than normal money wages. So all of this would be, so that's why I'm going to call this other fringe benefits, because the things that we listed are all called fringe benefits as well. So other fringe benefits, let's see, which one did you just say? Oh, a car, yeah, that's a good one. But you said something else too. Employee car, Gym membership, maybe golf membership. I don't know, 1 free dinner per week. Vacation, paid for vacation. That's actually probably deserves its own listing, paid for vacation. So how many weeks of vacation you get, that's important too. So some places will just be 1 week, 2 week, or depending on how they build it. Educate, very good. Yeah, that's another good one to add. Let's add that under the other fringe benefits. I'll just put another thing here. Let's just say, yeah, education. Certainly for Ottawa University, you get a free university education if you're an employee here. So education could be paid for. MBA, a lot of the students have. Otherwise, it could be training. So some sort of paid for education to get your certification or online certification and other things. Good. Anybody else? Yeah, Simon? Travel, yes. So travel, paid for vacation, and that would be like company travel, but yeah, let's just put that under here. All right, so, and then upgrade to first, let me put first class here. So a lot of my friends, I got a buddy up in Minnesota that travels all over the nation. He works for T-Mobile, but he's kind of an engineer with the towers and stuff. And so when they're setting up new towers and diagnosing problems, he told me this last time I got together with him that his company allows him to just go to the airport and pick a flight. So he's always getting like having to stay later for a business or a meeting or stay the next day. So he literally books flights on the day and they pay for first class. So he gets business class or first class, but he just goes to the airport. Like we go to the taxi cab place. Like, okay, I'll take it. When is this one leaving? Yeah, I'll take that one, and put me in the good seat, right? And so that's kind of a nice benefit, especially where places require a lot of travel. All right, so you can see that in some ways this makes it confusing to shop jobs, though, right? So one place has $20 an hour, another place has $30 an hour, but the $20 an hour place is loaded with fringe benefits, and the $30 an hour place is not, right? And so now all of a sudden you kind of have to see how that fits with your life. Maybe some of these things like aren't as important to you. Oh, I never go to the gym anyway, so that's a waste, right? And so you kind of start figuring out, evaluating which job is the best for you. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.